Question. Detail the prohibition of human trafficking, forced labor, begar, and the employment of children in hazardous industries under Articles 23 and 24. Hello friends. Today we will discuss two very important fundamental rights that protect the dignity and freedom of the most vulnerable sections of society, Article 23 and Article 24. Article 23 prohibits traffic in human beings and forced labor. Begar, it says. Traffic in human beings and begar and other similar forms of forced labor are prohibited, and any contravention of this provision shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. This article is a strong constitutional safeguard against exploitation. Traffic in human beings includes buying and selling of human beings for immoral purposes such as prostitution, slavery, or forced labor. Begar means compulsory labor without payment. The article also allows the state to impose compulsory service for public purposes, but it must not discriminate on grounds of religion, race, caste, or class. Article 24 prohibits the employment of children in hazardous industries. It states no child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mine or engaged in any other hazardous employment. This provision is meant to protect children from economic exploitation and to ensure they get the opportunity to grow, study, and develop physically and mentally. These two articles together form a strong constitutional shield against exploitation of human beings, especially women, children, and weaker sections of society. To understand how these articles work in practice, we must look at important Supreme Court judgments in People's Union for Democratic Rights versus Union of India, 1982, also known as the Asiad Games case. The Supreme Court gave a very wide interpretation to Article 23. The court held that forced labor includes not only physical compulsion, but also any labor for which the worker is not paid the minimum wage. The court said that if a worker is paid less than the minimum wage, the difference is extracted as forced labor. This judgment expanded the protection of Article 23 to cover bonded labor and exploitation through underpayment. In Bandhua Mukti Morcha versus Union of India, 1984, the Supreme Court used Article 23 and Article 24 together to liberate bonded laborers working in stone quarries. The court treated bonded labor as a form of forced labor prohibited under Article 23 and issued detailed directions for their rehabilitation, including providing land, education for children, and medical facilities. This case is a landmark in the fight against bonded labor. Regarding Article 24 in MC Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu, 1996, the Supreme Court dealt with the employment of children in the match industry in Sivakasi. The court issued comprehensive guidelines for the abolition of child labor in hazardous industries. It directed that children below 14 years should not be employed in any hazardous work and laid down rules for compensation, education, and rehabilitation of affected children. The court also held that the state has a duty to ensure that children are not exploited economically in Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India to India. The Supreme Court dealt with the trafficking and exploitation of children in circuses and issued directions to ban the employment of children in circuses and to rehabilitate them. These cases show how the Supreme Court has actively used Articles 23 and 24 to protect human dignity and prevent exploitation. The court has not only struck down exploitative practices, but has also issued positive directions for rehabilitation and prevention. The main characteristics of these articles are: they are absolute in nature with very few exceptions, they protect the weaker sections of society, they impose a duty on the state to prevent exploitation, and they are justiciable rights that can be enforced through writs under Article 32. Friends, Articles 23 and 24 are shining examples of the Constitution's commitment to human dignity and social justice. Article 23 abolishes all forms of human trafficking and forced labor, while Article 24 protects children from hazardous employment. Through landmark judgments like People's Union for Democratic Rights Bandwa, Mukti Morcha and MC Mehta, the Supreme Court has given life and meaning to these provisions. These articles remind us that true freedom includes freedom from exploitation. In conclusion, Articles 23 and 24 are powerful constitutional weapons against human trafficking, forced labor and child exploitation. They reflect the vision of the framers to create a society based on dignity and equality. The Supreme Court has played a proactive role in expanding and enforcing these rights. As long as these articles are strictly implemented and judicially protected, India can move towards a society free from exploitation and bonded labor. These provisions are not just legal rules but a constitutional promise to the weakest sections of our society that their dignity and childhood will be protected by the highest law of the land. Jai Bharat.